I would like to welcome and to introduce our new guest who will join us for the second round around the table. Carol Gribnau, Program Director Green Society at Hivos, and Suzanne van Tilburg, Global Head Food and Agri Networks at Rabobank. And still with us, Jackline Owili, the representative from UCAS. And if you have any questions for our guests, please do so by using chat, because they're all willing to answer them. Carol, let's start with you. Welcome. And could you please briefly introduce yourself and tell us what kind of organization Hivos is?
Yeah, well, to start with Hivos. Hivos, a humanist organization for social change. As our name already indicates, we very much value humanist values. So we're very people-centered and really believe in the full potential of people. We strive for a fair, free, fair and sustainable world, working in over 30 countries across the globe with many organizations. Most of them we consider change makers, so ranging from activists to civil society organizations and impact-driven entrepreneurs. But we do also collaborate with governments, local, national, researchers and private sector. And one of our main focus areas is sustainable food, because we feel it's very much connected to people's lives and opportunities.
Yeah. And as Hivos, you work in Uganda and Zambia on innovative partnerships and inclusions of citizens to accelerate the SDG 2 results. Could you please elaborate on this?
Yes, well, I think a lot of the speakers today already highlighted the fact that not only the food challenges we're seeing today are highly interconnected, so it has links with climate change, with poverty and so on. I won't repeat it. But also that local food systems or food systems are different everywhere. So it's really about how to find local solutions. So over the past 5 years, we've worked in 4 countries, bringing together different organizations, different stakeholders, really from producers, consumers, women, street food vendors, but also local authorities, researchers and so on. And really explore what are the major challenges they are facing in their own locality. So we will soon see a video from Uganda. And what you see in the western part of Uganda is really what we call the paradox of the plenty. It's a context with very rich natural resources. It's considered the food basket of Uganda. At the same time, we see 40% of the children being stunted, which is above the national average. So it's really a paradox.
Yes.
We see poverty. We see also the rural towns being flooded with imported processed foods. And you see a government struggling to deal with rapid urbanization and really increasingly seeing the need to rethink how they organize their whole food system. So we brought those actors together because there was really a sense of urgency.
Yes.
We had also a very trusted partner on the ground who was able to connect the different stakeholders.
Exactly, because I think that is the difficult part, to connect all these different stakeholders.
Yeah.
To what I said, to seduce them and to convince them that it's important to collaborate.
Yeah, I think the importance is not so much the issue, but then how do you do it? And how do you create an environment where everybody is able to speak out? I think in the Netherlands we have a very equal society. So here we can easily interact, whether you're from a private sector or government or a citizen. I think we have quite equal relationships. That's not the case in many countries. So if you really want to understand the struggles of small-scale producers or of poor urban consumers, of women, they need to be part of that conversation. And you need to have really insights in what are the challenges they're facing. I mean, what we found out is people know what a healthy diet is. But it's really, they're not able to really apply that in practice. They're cash-strapped, they need to sell their produce to export markets and so on. So you need to understand the daily challenges people face and need to create an environment where they're able to speak out and where their reality is really put center stage in the discussions.
Well, maybe we can take a look at the video.
Yeah. So I'm calling upon all the leaders in Uganda to make all the platforms of food.
We have started having People's Parliament coming together to discuss issues of diet and food.
So yes, that's why I decided, no, let me join to teach other people.
Okubala nga food parliament lwempita transport ngenda nsobola okuba nga nzigusa ebirowoozo byange eri eggwanga lyange bandirumirira.
Now we are trying to come up with the bylaws which are within the mandate of the district and the lower local governments.
Eba bitekeko ekkomo tuddemu mu nsigo yaffe tusobole okulaba ne tukuuma tutya ensigo yaffe ennansi eri emmere enkolerere bagiwere.
Yes, something that I want to share with the whole Ugandans. Food is good because food is life.
Gamba tulina kudda kulima kunima nga tukuuma n'obutonde bw'ensi ne tulima nga tulya bulungi.
People should stick on the indigenous foods. We should not shy away and try to shed off what used to be with us from the old days.
Naye nga twagala okuuma nnyaffe Uganda n'abazzukulu bagisangewo nga ekyali power of Africa.
So, beautiful video, Jackline from UCAS. Would you like to reflect or to react on?
Yeah, I'd say that the video is so insightful and educative. They are calling for a platform where people can be able to dialogue and bring the perspective of both men and women on the table to have an equal chance of decision making and trying to tailor-make their needs according to the kind of problems they're facing.
Yes, yeah. Because you explained earlier today that it's difficult. The time isn't maybe, or the climate ready for this, to hear all the different stakeholders and to include the youngsters and the women. And so, what do you think of this?
I would say that when you look at, I'm an advocate of the partnership of global goals, because when you look right from this SDG number 1, which is no poverty, to SDG number 16 of peace, justice and sustainable institutions, we find that there's no SDG that can be attained without having to have partnerships. So I believe if we can have that multi-stakeholder partnership number 17, where we include everyone right from the community, we have the governments, we have stakeholders like the civil societies and also the international community. I believe we'll be able to achieve this, but we are still somewhere within the gap of achieving sustainable development goals if young people are not included in the table for dialogue.
Okay.
Yes.
Suzanne van Tilburg, can you please tell a little bit about yourself and the work you're doing at the Rabobank?
Yes, I have been with the Dutch government first for over 20 years as a diplomat, also in agriculture and food, in worldwide embassies. And then I switched to Rabobank because I was into touch on the Banking for Food strategy, which is the new international strategy of Rabobank, in which the focus is on food and agri, and also to focus on the key transitions that are necessary to really make improvements in sustainability and the poverty and all the other SDGs that are very valuable to us as a bank.
Yes.
And why Rabobank? Because I was surprised, to be honest, and I think still many people are surprised. What is a bank doing in these type of transitions?
What is a bank doing?
Yeah. Let me ask the questions. To be honest, I was very surprised on the footprint of Rabobank, the presence already in itself in the most important food producing and food consuming countries. I didn't know that, being Dutch, and I knew Rabobank as a Dutch cooperative bank. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not only the countries where we are, but also the different stakeholders and value chain representatives that we are servicing. Ranging from 2,000 corporates worldwide, amongst which the top 17 of the global dairy companies, to the 5 million smallholder farmers that the Rabobank Foundation is supporting.
Because exactly, what can you do for the smallholder farmers?
Yeah, well, what we can do is try to get a grip of the transitions, try to understand the transitions, and try to see how we can think about the solutions and enable farmers worldwide, including smallholder farmers, to really address those solutions and being involved actively in different means. We can organize dialogues, for instance, on food loss and waste reduction. Food losses are many in Africa, especially also. So what we do is organize roundtables where we get all the stakeholders around the table and see how we can together solve this. But at the same time, in the Netherlands, we have a lot of food waste, which is on the consumption side the big problem. Where we, with, let's say, catering services, restaurants and hotels, we can organize food waste challenges and have online trainings, for instance, to really make them more aware of the waste that is a big problem. So it's enabling solutions and it's engaging. And I think what is very crucial, because we know the market, because we have all these stakeholders in the value chain, we are able to really come up with value chain finance solutions because we understand the markets, we know the needs of the markets, and as NGOs, you know the needs of the people, and that's why it's so important to connect together and see how we can together find the solutions that are necessary for all the stakeholders. I think what we want to do is to see how we can engage everybody around the globe, including the younger generation that you already addressed, with the youngsters from 15 to 17 years old included, because that's the Generation Z, as we call it, the next generation. And we are talking today about the SDGs and the implementation in 2030, but in 2030 they will be the new future leaders. They will be 25, 30 years old, the new CEOs maybe of companies. And maybe it's good to show a little video to address that, because we will be talking about the Food Systems Summit many times today. Okay. Yeah. I think it's nice to show it first.
Yes, please.
Yes.
For example, new business models and innovations needed to be embraced. As the leading global food and agri-bank, Rabobank is determined to contribute to overcoming challenges and seizing opportunities. Well, why only listen to them while they could also listen to us? Don't dictate your solutions, but let us be a part of the solution. I mean, we are the leaders of the future and we have something to say.
So, Jackline, I think you like this video.
Yeah, the video is so interesting because I think already it's like trying to educate or give views concerning what I've been talking about, about including youth. We find that, like the social media, what has been just highlighted there, this is where life is happening right now among the young generation. We are tech-savvy generation. Whenever we get any innovative ideas, we can post it on social media and circulate it among our peers or within the platforms that we engage in. Through that, we get to do awareness creation, and maybe somebody who will feel like this idea fits according to my need will join the bandwagon in trying to spread the news, and maybe so many people will come together and create innovative networks that can be able to create a sustainable solution according to the needs that are happening in the society. Actually, if I can look at the pandemic has showed us that food system has got some gaps in it, that we need to connect everyone, right from the farmer to the last chain of consumer, which is us.
So you almost see it as an opportunity to build better networks after the pandemic.
Yes.
Yes? Do you agree?
Well, yeah, that's exactly the intention, and that's why I'm happy that we could show this. It's a sneak preview, by the way, because at 5 p.m. This afternoon in the UN Relay of Food Systems, which is going on for 24 hours, also today is the real launch by Barry Martin, our board member. And then there will be a hackathon series and a social media campaign, because we indeed agree we have to connect together. And sometimes these issues can be quite technical.
Yeah.
So, especially when it comes to finance solutions, for instance, as a bank, we realize that it's very difficult for youngsters to understand the problems that we are talking about. What kind of problems do you have when you have data gaps? Or, for instance, what is true cost accounting? Nobody at that age would know, but they have to realize that it's important to also incorporate the societal costs, and that there are costs which have to be calculated and made more transparent, so that we can be very open about the real cost of the food that we are producing. And that's something I think that will be helpful if we get the feedback from the youngsters on what does it do to them and how can they find their own way of expressing the value that they add for nature, for instance, or for biodiversity, because they feel it already, but they cannot express it yet. And that's why, as a bank, we think it's important to try to translate, so to speak, these issues and co-create the solutions.
Yes. And Carol, do you have to add anything to that? Do you recognize this?
Yes, I think, there is definitely a great role for youngsters to play in this whole debate. Also because I think young people often bring a longer-term perspective. They are the future. You still have a long time in your life. So, and having that long-term perspective, I think, is really critical in addressing the key food challenges we're facing today. I think we talk about 2030, but 10 years is very short period to really fundamentally change the food system. So I think we need to find that balance between short-term actions that can be done and implemented while taking a longer-term perspective. I think also COVID is showing us that we cannot afford to lose this momentum in terms of, yes, there is definitely a need for short-term actions, like we're seeing in the Netherlands and across the globe. But we need to do and organize them in such a way that at the same time we build a far more inclusive, healthy and sustainable food system.
But then you have to make very, very difficult choices, I think, at this moment, because there's also...
Yeah, there's always trade-offs, of course. That's what we also try to make more transparent, and we think that's an important issue also for the Food Systems Summit, that you have to be transparent about the trade-offs. You cannot have a smallholder income growing while at the same time maybe investing in nature or biodiversity. Sometimes there will be a choice to make, and at least if you are transparent about this, then people can consider this and also create perspective for their own business, which is very crucial.
Of course, you have a collective ambition, and I think, in what way could you help each other, or are you already helping each other as Hivos in the Rabobank? Is there already something going?
Yeah, we do not directly collaborate, but for instance, as Hivos, we do collaborate with banks, local banks, MFIs, microfinance institutions across the globe who provide access to finance for smallholders, for women, and so on. But we also collaborate, for instance, with the Triodos Bank. So we jointly invest in what we call front-runner agri-food companies across the globe. And I think that's, quite comparable also to what Rabobank is doing. So.
Yeah, we already said we should tear down this screen.
Yes, exactly.
Also, in practice, because I think, and that's really something that goes at the... I think it's the essence of things also when you talk about being engaged together and working together. There is still an allergy for the private sector in many international societal worlds where they think the reality is different than the commercial reality. And we also try to pinpoint that it's so crucial to understand that there needs to be an economically viable basis, a business model, a business case under every company, because it can only be sustainable that way.
But why do you think this allergy exists?
Because of the past, because of the fossil society that we were all living in and we all participated in actively. And now I think you mentioned it before, the time is right. Now I really think that people realize that this cannot go on any longer. And of course the Life on Earth movie of David Attenborough is very helpful in that as well, to get outreach worldwide to understand the problem. But I see it from a very close perspective that it's still very difficult to give commercial companies in the private sector the credits for wanting to contribute to the society. And I think it would be very helpful if we could indeed tear down the screens and sit around the table and try to get to the same ambitions.
Yes.
Because that's the only way where we can showcase what is really necessary, what is working, what is not working.
Well, Mirtil, do you see Rabobank, Hivos and digitalization come together?
Yeah, I think there's well, let's bring this wall down. And not only Hivos, I mean, also the young people movement. I think that's a great angle probably to also allow these organizations to work together. I mean, let's do it through empowering the youth in different parts of the world.
I have a question from Lisette. Question for all table guests. What are access to finance solutions which you have seen in practice that work for both the young and the financial institutions? Yeah. Well?
I don't think it... If I can take that question, because the word finance is in it,
yes.
I think it's not only about young specifically. It needs to be inclusive. So we target, of course, financial solutions that also contribute to the livelihood of youngsters. But maybe a different perspective. In Australia, we have a large presence, like 60 banks throughout the country. So Australians think we're an Australian bank. And we are talking actively with youngsters about succession. Because that's a problem worldwide, that there are not many young people that think that farming is sexy enough. So they really want to know what's in it for them, what is their perspective. So we have active conversations and dialogues about that. And at the other end of the scale, when you talk about transitions, healthy diets is very crucial. It's also in your slogan of today. But when you talk about obesity, for instance, we have to be careful not to be too prescriptive to youngsters, but to make ourselves strong and to really voice their voices. That public funding and awareness budgets, for instance, will be repurposed, redirected, that there will be a repurposing of subsidies also to make the access to healthy and fresh food much bigger. So there are different ways, and as a stakeholder in those dialogue processes, I think it's the biggest added value that we can have.
Okay, we're maybe very short because we're...
because I think the whole issue of access to finance is a critical one, especially in developing countries. I think there are many MFIs and microfinance institutions, but what is really difficult for people, for entrepreneurs, is to grow their business. There's a huge gap in financing, especially local startups that want to grow their business, and especially those that have different models, different business models, the models we need today to really transition the food system.
So how can we help them? Or
create investment facilities that really support those innovative entrepreneurs in developing countries.
And provide access to insights and to markets, not specifically to finance only. If we can address the data gaps that are there and the finance gaps, we can open that up and make it more transparent. We can provide access to markets as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your contribution. You've given us plenty of food for thought. And, hope to see you the coming next 10 years. Keep up the good work and tear down the screen, I would say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think so.